The second I come through those electronic gates, you know, that pick out your registration, you realise you're on a high-tech, well-developed complex with brilliant minds behind it. Really, really impressive.
It's been quite a long road actually. I think we're about 10 months after purchasing it, but a lot has happened in that time, and yeah, I'm really excited it's open now. We always wanted it to be open in that first autumn. That gave the fish that we stocked in the winter time a whole summer of being fed to grow on, and a lot of them have put what we were expecting, about £5 on since they went in. Loads of work has happened. Obviously the swim I'm standing in is prime example. You know, there was nothing here at all. There was just a couple of muddy tracks and that was it. So a lodge, toilets, showers, car parks, tracks, you know, the anglers' paths where there's not tracks round to drive all the way round. We wanted it to be as natural as possible, and I'm not a fan of having a car park behind every swim. So we've put various car parks around and sort of hidden them as much as we can, so the cars are all grouped together in one place. So you're not just looking at motors the whole time, you know, it looks as natural as possible. The ethos behind it is to create somewhere that I could turn up to and be the last man on a lake and still be happy with the water in front of me. And I think too much nowadays, financial gain overrides you know, decent angling conditions, and everyone's packed in shoulder to shoulder, paying a lot of money as well, and just hasn't really got a decent amount of water to go at unless they queue up behind somebody else for 24 hours and go into a swim that's been fished and fished and fished and fished. So the lake behind me, Pettit's, is 16 acres, there's 13 swims. Everybody's got a decent amount of water, and more importantly, something nice to go at. So there's lots of ups and downs in this lake. There's islands to fish sort of next to and short of. There's gullies, you know, there's shallow bits. There's weedy margins to cast over to. So whether you can cast 40 yards or 100 yards, there is something on this lake for you. On Billy's, bigger lake, 27 acres, only 22 swims. At the moment, actually, even though it's the bigger lake, the range of fishing is actually closer, because the people that have been fishing on there have been, say, less experienced. Most of the fish are getting caught between sort of 40 and 70 yards, because that's the range that people can fish at. So the bait goes in there, the fish come to the bait, yeah, it's just sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy. If the bait keeps going in one place, that becomes the hot spot. So the ethos is that everyone's got room to angle. It's a nice natural environment, but it's comfortable and safe at the same time. So Pettit's behind me is the more difficult of the two. 200 fish were stocked in, 150 farmed fish that were all 15-pounders-ish in sort of January, February, and then 50 fish that we got from a couple of different syndicates that were shutting down, and those fish went into 30 pounds. So 200 fish in total. They're all 20-pounders now. Everything that's getting caught is a 20-pounder. So, you know, all the farmed fish have put £5 or more on over the summer, which is great. And the biggest of them I would expect to be sort of low to mid-30s. Definitely a trickier lake. It's for the more experienced angler, it always will be. This is going to be our big fish lake on the complex. This will have 40-pounders in it in probably 3 or 4 years' time. And then Billy's, 900 fish in 27 acres, so you know you can end up with 200 or 300 fish in your swim. You know, if you're on the fish, and they do seem to be very affected by the weather. They're very sort of moved around by the wind, and you know, we've had 2 lads filmed here for Thinking Tackle with me, Loz East and James Salmons, who are brilliant anglers, absolutely brilliant anglers. and they had over 100 bites in 4 days between the two of them. I think they landed about 90 odd. They didn't fish the nights either, and they had one day that they only fed boilies, and that was the slowest day of the whole lot. So the tactics wise, the main point to go with is if you're not feeding the pellet that we fed them all summer, you're at a disadvantage. So you don't have to use our pellet, you can bring your own pellet, but high oil pellet at the moment is the way to go, because they've literally seen 40 or 50 kilos of it a day, every single day from April to when we opened in September. So, you know, a high oil pellet is going to be allowed up until November. I'd definitely have that as 90% of my mix. You can put a scattering of boilies in as well if that makes you happy, but you really don't need to. And fishing a little PVA bag, either a solid bag or a funnel web bag over the top is really good. If the bottom's really clean, you can get away with a bottom bait or a wafter, small one again, because the fish are tuned into small items. But a lot of people are fishing pop-ups because there is a bit of weed out there. If you don't land on a completely clear bit, then obviously a pop-up makes sure the hook isn't snarled up in the weed. And just little pop-ups, any good one will work. I've been using the mainline IBs that I've doused up with the isotonic goo, just because I've used it everywhere else this year and it's worked really well. So I went in with that, and that did really well for me. Okay, what's to come and what time frame? That depends on the work. So you can probably hear all the big machinery going on in the background. They're working on the top 3 lakes on the complex, which is Turners, Holdens and Dabhorns. Turners is 18 acres, got 600 fish in it at the moment. They've been fed all summer as well. So, you know, I was photographing fish this morning for the bailiffs over there. An 18-pound fully scaled that was just amazing, and a 23-pound proper black mirror. That would have, both them fish would have gone in at probably 15 pound. You know, this winter just gone. So they're whacking it on in there. That one should open next spring. It was supposed to be open now. But the water level's so high, we've got a lot of work to do to get trees out before we can build swims like I'm standing in now. We're hoping the other 2, Holdens and Dabhorns, will both open at the same time next spring. But don't hold us to that. You know, it might take longer. We've got car parks to put in, swims to put on every lake. So you know, it might be that those ones, they were always set to be open next September, Holdens and Dabhorns. Holdens is a big fish lake like this one, lower stock, bigger fish. Dabhorns is the opposite. You're talking about 50 to 60 fish an acre, you know, so the top end of day ticket sort of stocking levels, and that's a runs water. That's, you know, come down as a complete novice, Dad, bring your son down, you know, and pretty much anywhere you cast, you're going to get a bite, you know. So we're trying to do different things all the way around the site. Turners is going to be a bit like Billy's, same sort of stocking density, so it's a sort of in-between lake. So yeah, we're hoping next spring, at the latest next autumn. So we started with a booking system for the first few months because I didn't want people driving from Manchester getting here and there's no swims, you know. So it was making sure that everybody that had paid could get a swim. So basically, gates open at 10 o'clock. Got an hour to walk round. We'll explain to you what's been caught from where, what swims are available, because it's all up on a board. And then we do the draw at 11. You pick a ball out of a number on. Number 1 gets first choice, number 2 gets second choice, like that. You all have to pick individual swims, so we don't have double swims and people fishing together. It's, you know, it's fair for everybody that way. And then they can get to their swims, then start fishing at 12 o'clock, and you pay in 24-hour blocks. Basically, you know, once you've finished, you know, you've got an hour to pack up and get off site. Yeah, basically until the end of October, you'll need to book in advance via the website. It's very, very simple to do. You just select how many days you want to fish for. You like your start and end date. Goes through to get your card details. You know, pay the money. We get the code, so we know who's coming. Yeah, that's it. It's pretty simple. One thing I would say, we are a cashless site as well, so we've got a tackle shop up there now in the lodge. We're selling the house pellet at a reduced rate, and we've got a range of rig gear up there, obviously cooler stuff. Once the booking system expires, then it's literally turning up like going into a multi-storey car park. So there's barriers at the gate. You arrive, the gates open at 7 o'clock in the morning. It will say, welcome to Norton Disney. There are 18 swims available on the complex. How many days do you want to fish for? You put the days in, 3 days, pay your money for the 3 days, and then you can come and go as you please between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. because it's got number plate recognition within that 3-day period. You can extend it if you want to, so as long as you extend before your session actually finishes, you can go up there, pay again for extra time, and it will just add that on. We only started on Saturday. We were completely full, 35 people on Saturday, and it did bites all over billies. Pettits was slower, but I think that was due to the level of experience of the guys that were here. Since then, you know, we've had our anglers with more experience who can hit the clip at 20 wraps or 24 wraps, which is probably the longest spot on here. And it's done a lot of 20s since then. I don't think it's actually done a fish under 20 pound since we've opened, and that was our target, you know, for this particular lake. Biggest so far, Darren had in the corner behind me, off the back of the wind this morning, a 28.2. That's the biggest one so far. He's had a 22 since then as well. Been some lovely 25 pounders, some amazing linears, but there's such a variance of fish. You know, there's long sort of dark chocolate brown ones, and then you've got real scaly ones with big apple slices all over them. Some big commons as well. There's 3 or 4 30-pound commons swimming around in there at the moment. So you know, there is a real mix, but you know, I've got to take my hat off to the fish farmers at the moment. They are all producing amazing looking carp. The future is certainly very bright for carp fishing in this country generally, and I hope that Embryo are making a big contribution to that. You know, billies, you know, people have had hits of sort of half a dozen fish in an afternoon when the fish have turned up on them, but it's definitely more consistent per angler. You've only probably got 1 or 2 anglers on the lake each day that are not getting anything, whereas on Pettits, you know, it's probably half of them are getting takes, the other half aren't. But I think that's due to how they're angling rather than, you know, how responsive the fish are.
Yeah, there's no way you could work for anything that Danny's involved with and not try to help the people that you're in effect, you know, getting to come here to support the project. He's all about giving information. He's all about helping anglers catch more fish. It's not about selling tackle to them. Far from it. It's about making that person enjoy their experience on the venue as much as possible. So, you know, that they're bailiff or whatever is a bad term for them. They're almost like guides on here. They're going around, they're helping people to adjust to the fishing situation, find the clear spots, find the spots, show them what hook to use, what rig to use, what bait to use, all the most important elements. You know, it's not about having the best rods and the best bivvy, it's about having the right bit of technology and bait on the end and get them fish munching. There's a bit of a myth, you know, where people think the virgin carp are really easy to catch. Actually, they're quite nomadic. They have patterns that they're used to when the lake was shut, if you like, and you know, they'll visit certain areas throughout the day. And I actually think lakes that are fished more regularly are easier to catch carp from because they're used to the sound of the spot. They know it means food. You know, they're used to people casting out. They're sort of senses and awareness of it all is, they're used to it, you know, where when you go to, I've fished small virgin lakes and I've caught a carp instantly, and then they've just moved, you know, an acre over to the other side, and I've had to go around there, catch one there and bounce them around. So I think on this lake there'll be a lot of bouncing around. There'll be they won't be used to the sound of the spod to start with, so I think it's a matter of getting the food in, getting some down. If nothing happens, put a little bit more out. But that sort of ringing the dinner bell, I don't think is going to kick this place off for a little while, you know. So it'd be about getting your beds of bait in and getting the carp in, you know. Let them follow their nomadic pattern, come into the area, and then you're going to get bites. There was a gentleman here that I helped yesterday, and he was going to put 3 different rigs out to see which one works. And I was like, mate, you just need a sharp hook and a rig that doesn't tangle and will reset itself. You know, these sort of carp will come in, especially when they're feeding on the pellet so much now. They'll really sort of disrupt the area, and those rigs will get picked up and dropped a lot. You know, they're quite young and scatty. So, you know, a rig that goes back out like the Ronnie rig, the D rig, even a little chod, solid bags, things like that you know are going to be there fishing for you, and with slight buoyancy in the hook bait, whether it's a pop-up or a wafter, that's going to sort of kick back out away from the lead and just be fishing, so that when a fish finally takes it well, it gets nailed, because we all know that rigs get picked up and blown out all the time.
And if I came back to you and we sat in this place 10 years from now, what do you hope we'd be looking at, and what do you hope this place will be?
10 years from now, I hope I'm still alive, first of all. And I know that it will be grown up like you wouldn't believe, because we're not cutting any of the grass or anything like that. There'll be nice little paths down to the swims, but it's going to be as carpy as it can possibly be. I like it as natural as possible. I don't like it manicured at all. And so there'll be tall trees everywhere. This lake, God knows how many 40s there'll be in this one. And I'm sure there'll be 40s probably in every lake within 10 years. Yeah, I'd like to think that, you know, we use a progressive stocking policy, which means that every winter we trickle a few in, even if there's enough fish in already. One, because you lose a few every spring, always happens. You know, 1% is the figure banded around. So if there's 200 in here, we might lose 2 or 3 every year. So you need to top that up. But also, just 10 or 20 fish every winter upsets the hierarchy. The fish that are in there can't sit back on their laurels and just eat when they want to eat. The new ones force them to eat, so we keep catching them. And the way I look at it, it's us against them. You know, I want the people coming here to catch the fish. You know, a lot of lake owners and stuff, they sort of almost make it hard for you, you know, and it appears they don't even want you to catch them, you know. And being an angler, I'm the absolute opposite. I want people to catch as many as possible. So I think they'll always remain catchable, the fish. I think they'll always be in fantastic nick because our carp care rules are very prudent. I think there'll be a load of big fish here.